Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one!
He got
Another one!
Oladipo!
Another one! Huge hole! He's at the 30! He's gonna go! 10, 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor!
Galloway finds Rob Finnessy, who fires the three, and
he hit it!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard to another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you from high atop the 18th fairway here at the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios on this first day of May, Monday, May 1st. Welcome in. Thanks a lot for joining us. We appreciate you very much. Don't forget Indiana Sports Beat Radio, powered by Andy Moore Honda. Just go to andymoorehonda.com and get more to your door. Also, Endeavor Hospitality and the Wealth family of restaurants in and around the Bloomington area. Great places like BB's Market, where not only are they your butcher, baker, no matter where you live, with great selection of in-house custom-made meats, sides, products, full-size bakery. Soon, 1 month away, the Butcher's Cut, a new steak restaurant. So looking forward to that. Lots coming up here on this edition. Dustin Dopirak will join us. We'll talk to Zach Kiefer from the Indy Star about the NFL draft. Kevin Sweeney from College Basketball Central as the second the second and third days of the second evaluation period, or of two evaluation periods in April, are done and over with. The EYBL was in Phoenix. The 3SSB from Adidas was in Bryan, Texas. We'll talk about that. The NHL, if you're a fan of that, man, how about the action that went on there? We need Bob. Today's a Bob Kravitz day. Could talk to Bob Kravitz about this because he's a big hockey fan. Last night, there were 2 Game 7s, both on home ice for the higher seeds. And guess who won, John?
I'm going to guess the teams that weren't supposed to win.
Yep.
I did see that the Boston Bruins are one of those teams, and that they were having a historic season, and it kind of, didn't end the way they wanted it to.
Apparently the best team in NHL regular season history.
Wow.
Goes down. But the Kraken. I love saying that.
That's a great name. Love the Seattle Kraken.
What is a Kraken? Besides,
it's like a sea monster. I don't know specifically.
Besides my head, what's a Kraken?
Like, I know most people would. I think.
Oh boy,
I almost in the category of like.
I had one of the funniest jokes right there. I could have slid in, but
just let it go.
Yeah. What's Kraken?
But I think it's just. Oh yeah, we know. I think it's in the family of like squids and octopus and stuff like that.
Yeah, I believe that is. It's just that just sounds like a horror movie, man.
It does.
The Return of the Green Kraken.
No, if I was picking NHL teams based on the best name, Kraken.
By a long. Well, they throw an octopus on the ice when every time you have a hat trick.
Really?
Yeah.
You just made that up, didn't you?
No, that's a tradition.
Huh. I did not know that.
Please.
That's real.
That is very real. GTS, baby. GTS. You know what that is either, do you?
I was trying to figure it out, but I don't know if I will. I don't think I will.
Google that stuff.
GTS.
Yeah. But yes, I assure you. The Boston Bruins, man, that would be like that team of Michael Jordan's and the Bulls when they were 82 and whatever it was. I can't remember. They lost like 10 games the entire season.
I'm distracted. I typed in GTS and all I'm getting is global trading systems. I'm sure it's not what you wanted me to see.
No, John, that was a joke. It's Google. That stands for Google. That stuff.
See, you're throwing all sorts of things at me this morning. We're not even 10 minutes into the show, and you've thrown two things at me that I've never heard of.
Hey, man. Today, baby. Let's see. You've got another Game 7 tonight. The Devils and the Rangers. How about if you're a hockey fan, you have to be just jacked, man. A third Game 7? Are you serious? 3 Game 7s in 2 days? I'm not going to say it has to be a record, but Major League Baseball may have pulled that, but or basketball. But pretty cool. If you're in it, yeah. But I'm sure they need it. For the ratings and all that. We'll get to the college basketball weekend.
You mean the college basketball weekend? You mean the recruiting front?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Gotcha. But one thing that we talked quite a bit about last week that we kind of need to address, we were talking about Indiana baseball and the successes they were having. They went the opposite direction this weekend.
Funny you say that. Thank you for actually, because right here on my notepad, I've written, we don't have the time to talk about a lot of every sport that goes on, but if you're an IU fan, it was a mixed weekend. The Big Ten golf championships happened. Indiana finished 4th, but they were stopped because of weather on Sunday. But 4th place finish, best finish since 2013 for the Hoosiers. Indiana softball wins their 5th straight series. And that may even be 5 straight sweeps, nonetheless. Along with that, Taryn Kern, 2 more home runs. Two-run home runs, by the way. She's a freshman, leading the NCAA. Numbers 20 and 21, and still sitting atop the NCAA. Indiana baseball, on the other hand, that was not a good weekend. As Carl points out, they were swept by a talented Maryland team, but they didn't just get swept. This was dominant. They probably it was probably combined 30-4 in the first 2 games. Something like that. As far as run differential. And the third game was closer than that, but man, that's a dominant series, and that was a battle of teams that were at the top. Indiana had a game lead, I believe, over Maryland before they arrived, and now that has changed to a 2-game deficit.
And you lost the head-to-head, so that in case of a tiebreaker, we know what happens there. And now, even more importantly, you more than likely lose your hosting privileges for now unless you're able to make it up and do something in the postseason, the Big Ten postseason, and try to earn your way back into hosting a regional potentially.
In addition to the recruiting front, almost slipped my mind for a second. Anthony Walker. Indiana picks up yet another commitment out of the portal, but not one that you might have expected or thought of. He's another front court player. So one would think Indiana is certainly done with the front court players What do they have? 2 slots left?
Yeah, they now have 2 open scholarships left.
Still needing a couple of shooters, but that's the thing. That's all they need. So there's going to be another run yet on the portal, and then you have the remnants of the draft. Guys that will be diving in. That have already entered the portal, but yet are going through the process of the draft. So I think Indiana will probably end up just fine because there are more available pieces than there are holes to fill. That's the fortunate thing. Now everyone's going to say, "Well, who's that? Who?" I'm not. There's no point in me picking out or anybody picking out specifics until that situation makes itself available. The situation might not even be available just yet. So chill and relax and let the AAU season get going. Thanks a lot to everybody hitting us up early and often on the Andy Moore Honda hotline. You can do so too. Following us on YouTube. Make sure you hit the subscribe, notification toggles, and the like button. Hello to everybody listening on the Ref 97.7. Always the right call. Down on the river, our river rats. Our region rats listening up on WJLB 1230 AM, 104.7 FM, WBRO 89.9, and soon to be on The Fan in Fort Wayne, 1380 AM. No matter how you listen, where you listen, we appreciate you. Lots of comments, like I said, but we'll get to those when we come back. We've got to take a break. On the program today, Dustin Dopirak from Indy Stars. Zach Kiefer will join us as well. We'll talk about the NFL draft, and more specifically, Anthony Richardson and the Colts. What did they get? They got who I thought that they would get. Kevin Sweeney joins us from College Basketball Central. That and lots more here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
All right, I just got a text from Zach. He said that he was supposed to be at 9:10. So do you want me to just tell Dustin Dopirak to come on at 9:30 and we only do one segment with him because evidently you did give him a time. We just didn't know what it was.
Okay. And Kevin Sweeney is what time?
9:50.
Yeah, that's fine. It'll just take him long and we'll be good.
Yep. All right, I'll let him know real quick. All right, we should be good.
No, we should be great.
Sorry I didn't have the new intro done. I really thought I was going to be able to have that finished up for the day.
I wasn't expecting it.
Well, I was expecting it, but I just sometimes
Well,
takes longer than you'd think it
well,
would. It's fun.
Yeah, I wouldn't even thought anything about it. I was like, well, why didn't you just not tell me? I wouldn't have known anything.
Well, I told you on Friday that I was going to have it done on Monday, but
Did you think I would have remembered that?
Well, it's a good point. All right, here we go.
Metalworks Brewing Company. Bring your passion and your thirst.
This segment is brought to you by Southern Stone Restaurant. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming to you here on this Monday, May the 1st. Well, where's those May flowers, baby? Because we certainly had the April showers. Not quite yet, flowers. It's a little chilly out there. This is a high of 50s, something expected today. A little rain, cold and rainy over the weekend. Waiting for it to warm up. We had kind of a wonky April, man. Weather-wise. But there is good news on the horizon, at least for those of us that live where I live. Within 3 days, we will see 70 degrees and sunshine. How about them apples? And Derby Day right now is predicted to be 74 degrees and partly sunny skies. That's always a great thing. When you see outdoor events like that, spectacles, outdoor spectacles, sports spectaculars. Indianapolis 500 also coming up. Anthony Walker committed to Indiana from Miami. Indiana certainly has the Big Ben covered. The thing that they have now, though, with these big men are big men that all have one thing in common. They all have experience. So that Indiana has upgraded even along positionally. Think about it. And I'm not saying point for point or any of that, but I think that is exactly what they intended to do, and they're doing that. Jordan Geronimo, one of those pieces that left and is now in College Park, Maryland, committed to the Terrapins. As Hoosier fans will see him. We'll continue to see Jordan Geronimo as he is part of. You hear me talk about Maryland and the job Kevin Willard's doing over there. Man, they must have 20 scholarships available.
Are you with us, Jim? I can't tell if you're with us or not. All right. Well, this is interesting. For those of you listening on YouTube, we apologize for whatever this is. All right. Well, but based on Michael's comment, I can see that Jim has froze. I'm gonna let him know that he needs to rejoin, and then I'll continue to try to give some thoughts on the recruiting situation. Hey, it's a Monday. Things happen, guys, right? We appreciate you as always. Sorry that Dustin Schutte isn't with us either. Hopefully we'll be able to be rejoined by Dustin Schutte again in the future. And actually, I'm going to take this time take this moment as a time to kind of, actually, you know what? Never mind. Jim's here. We'll save this for another time. But Jim, are you back with us?
Of course.
Let me see. There we go. He's back. Things happen, right?
That's never happened here. Something lightning. Whoo! Lightning strike there for a second, I believe. But anyway, Indiana fans will get more opportunities to see Jordan Geronimo, but Maryland is building a very athletic team. Think of Rick Pitino. Think of the Louisville teams. Think of the Kentucky teams. Pro-style offenses. What's the final pieces going to be for Indiana? I think those are going, like I said earlier, I think those are going to fall into place. I don't know who they're going to be. I can't predict that. I'm not sure that Indiana knows just yet. I think that they might still be out there. It'd still be one of those pieces that falls into place. The good thing is they're not in a panic mode in any stretch of the imagination. I look forward to talking to Kevin Sweeney about that later, but yeah, they got beat. They definitely got beat on some recruits. Why they got beat? I don't know. And I'm not suggesting any reasons why, because I don't know. Could have been a myriad of different things. Good or bad. But oh well. Like I said, there's plenty more coming up with the NBA draft, the fallout from there. There are people that are still in the portal. That'll be changing. And there are people that are not even in the portal yet that will be. That's the odd one. It's the guys that are not in the portal yet that will eventually enter before, because that would seem like that would be, I don't know, weirder, because you're still around your teammates, but for maybe whatever reason, they haven't made that decision yet. Maybe it's an opportunity that has not presented itself yet. We'll certainly find out. Oh, but nothing's going to matter now until it does for Indiana fans. They're looking forward to getting that roster filled out so they can get even more excited. Regardless, next season's team will not have two things: Trace Jackson-Davis or Jalen Hood-Schifino. So, what kind of offense can people expect? What kind of team will people be able to expect? I think it's going to be a better team. I think that they will be able to be a better team next year, which will make them more formidable. Because when you are predictable, you're predictable. Now, they were predictable, but yet still difficult to beat, because even though sometimes you know what's coming, you still have to stop it. And a lot of teams were not able to do that. It was a hell of a combination between Jalen Hood-Schifino and Trace Jackson Davis. And if Indiana had found a way or had the ability or whatever the case was to add one other element to that, that would have changed their fortunes. They were missing a very, very key piece offensively. And actually defensively, because they were getting beat on certain things. But they are making those changes. And I think that this is going to be a better team for it. I think that the guys that when Jordan Geronimo is a good example. For whatever reason, you could tell he'd either hit a wall or it was time for a change, the body language, whatever the case. But everyone saw it. It was that one. That one was the easiest to predict of all of who was going to be in the portal. So how does that work out for him in Maryland? I'm sure it's going to work out great. Fresh, new start. Obviously, they want him. They need him. Put him in a position. It's a completely different style. And he is going to be in a completely different style. Kenneth just wants guys that can get their own shots. Philip says, who does Indiana count on to be their primary scorers? Xavier and whom? Well, that's yet to be told, for one. And maybe that's not, maybe the best thing for Indiana is that there is no set number two guy, but better yet, a rotation of 2, 3, 4, 5. The guys contributing, which would make that much more of a team that is hard to predict because you don't know where it's coming from. That's what Indiana lacked last year. Exactly. It's exactly what I was just talking about. And that's the exact thing that will make them more formidable. Not knowing where it's going to come from. Front court, back court. This guy, that guy. There was no way that was happening last year. I mean, that was a rare thing. And think back, teams you liked. Yes, they always had some main guys, but you also had guys that could contribute on any given night, not on just a rare night. So there's that. But we've got a long way till that comes around. And they've got to fill the roster up, like I said. And I think that will not be as big a problem as, well, it's not going to be a problem at all. But I think that they'll end up getting what they need. You don't always get what you want. Sometimes you get what you need. Right, John?
I guess.
I bet you that went over your head, didn't it?
It did. It did. What were you referencing?
Oh, you're going to get shamed instead of listening to
Nickelback.
Yes, instead of listening to Nickelback, you're probably about to get shamed on the comments.
I'm used to it. Being shamed is part of my brand, I feel like.
I understand that, and Sean, yes, I'm well aware of that. That was my point.
Well, so what was? Say it again. Say it again. Maybe I could figure it out before we get to our next break here.
Little bitty
There we
band.
go. Pete said
The
it.
Rolling Stones
Spoiled it.
can't always get what you want, but if you try, sometimes you just might find you get what you need.
Classic masterpiece. Right.
It is a classic masterpiece. It absolutely is a classic masterpiece. Kenneth thinks that Wear and Renew should be capable of getting 10 to 20 each a night. Xavier too. Man, if Indiana gets Dingle and Mbako, they are more of the 15 to 20 variety. Man, that's 100 points a night.
Is
20, 40.
Dingle's a shooter, right? I know Indiana started targeting him a few days ago.
Yeah, another guard or wing, rather. But yeah, Indiana. That's why I'm saying Indiana's in a great position now. I think that they're fine. They're going to get what they need now. Also, though, these guys see that Indiana has everything in place, ready to go, and that's part of a sell that Mike Whitson and crew can use right now. All we need is you. We've got everything we need. We've got front court players. We've got this. We've got our leader. We've got our senior point guard back. We've got the experience. We've got experience in the front court, talent in the front court, but we need you. Boy, that's going to be a lot better sell now instead of the other way around. But I think that, like I said, they will get what they need. We've got to take a break. Lots more coming up. Who's up next?
Next up is Zach Kiefer. Yep.
Zach Kiefer, that's what I thought. Indy Star. We'll talk about Anthony Richards and the new coach quarterback. Coming up next, brought to you by Hank's Pizza Mac. Don't forget, man, located right on North College, 1280 North College Avenue, in the old Swing In Pizza. 812-330-0000. Mac bowls, pizzas, top bowls, all kinds of great things. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Whether it's cold outside.
What's up, peoples? Man. Oh, yeah. Hey, are you going to be able to fix that where I cannot believe I lost?
Yeah. That the little mishap, that'll be fine. I'll fix that in post.
I'm hardwired. I mean, I even forgot about that until I was down there doing some stuff last night, digging. That's never happened. That didn't happen on my end.
I just didn't know what happened. I was just like, did he just lose connection or what's going on?
I just looked up and I'm like, what the hell happened? Yeah, I'm not only am I'm hardwired onto fiber.
Oh yeah, you got the good stuff.
Yeah, I'd like to fix that. I don't want that going out that we lost connection if possible.
Yeah, no. That'll get fixed. No worries.
Beautiful. What happened in NASCAR yesterday? Did that get postponed?
I wish I liked NASCAR still. Not that I don't like it. Well, I just don't have time to watch it the way that I did when I was younger.
I don't like it like I used to because the drivers, it's not as fun. They're not as
All right. I told Zach we're ready for him, but he's not on yet. But he should be on here shortly, I would think. So.
Does he know what's a link?
Yes, I sent the link to him.
Order online today at thefreshfork.com. Fresh Fork is a proud partner of WOW Network. This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indie Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Monday, May the 1st. Looking for those Mayflowers. It's Derby week. It's all kinds of things, but welcoming in Zach Kiefer from the Indy Star. Zach, how are you, sir?
From the Athletic, actually.
Oh, yeah, man, I'm so hard habits die old. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Good. Bob Kravitz can wrap my knuckles on Wednesday. He joins us every Wednesday, so he enjoys having something to beat on me about. How long have you been with the Athletic now?
Since 2019, so 4 years, is that right? Yeah. But I was with the Indy Star for about 7 or 8 before that.
How fortunate do you feel to be able to make that jump? Because that doesn't always work out for everybody in this business. But a great move for you from, not that you needed to move from there, but being able to do that.
Yeah, I was really lucky at the Star. I had some great bosses and some great colleagues, and it wasn't easy, but the Athletic's great. It's kind of less minutia, less daily stuff, and kind of dig into the deeper, longer stories that I like to do. And hopefully that's kind of what we've set ourselves apart by doing.
Yeah, I'm a subscriber and have been, and always suggest everyone else be as well. Zach covers the Colts, and the Colts got their guy. I thought that Anthony Richardson was going to be the guy. I did not like Will Levis. I did not think that they were going to have a chance to get anybody else, and that's how it ended up. And I think that, man, the stories that we've seen about him bringing his family to Indy, I'm like, holy cow, you don't see people doing that kind of thing. And so he's already done some things that set himself apart. And I think that maybe they got the guy, or the guy that they wanted for sure, but maybe they got the guy they needed.
Yeah, it's going to be a process, and I think fans probably don't want to hear this on Monday morning after the draft, but there's going to be some ups and downs. And his talent is undeniable. The interesting thing is the Colts were very honest about the scouting process, and assistant general manager Ed Dodds talked with him Saturday night, and he said when he looked at him originally he was like, no, he was out on Richardson. He said there's no resume, 13 games. And he said at one point in the scouting process, he asked Richardson, when you have a clean pocket and you're missing this throw and this guy's wide open, why is that happening? And Richardson told him, like, there's so many things in my head. This coach is telling me to do this, and this coach is telling me to do this. And so I thought it was interesting that one of the top personnel execs from the Colts were kind of like, yeah, I didn't want him. And then over the process, not just the tape, but the interviews and the sit-downs with him, that kind of turned him. So they feel really good about him as a person, as a leader for this team in the years to come. And believe me, they wouldn't have signed off on him unless they felt good about that. So it's not just the film when you're drafting a quarterback. It's everything else. And they really seem to buy into that part of him.
Well, and because what people have to remember first and foremost, this is the guy that when he steps into a huddle and there are 34-year-old guys that have been in the league for 10 years who are making their living doing this, and they look up to this 20-year-old kid, he's got to be able to command that huddle and command those guys. And doing these kinds of things now is how he gets to that point sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and I would say it's easy to be drafted. It's not easy, to bounce back from when this league hits you in the mouth, and it will. It will. And Indy's a little jaded, man. Like, Peyton Manning was a legit starter from day one. Andrew Luck was a better rookie quarterback than Peyton Manning was in 2012. This ain't going to be that. And I think Indiana needs to understand that, and I think they will. It's going to be a process. He's only 20, and they've got some nice pieces around him, Pittman and Taylor, but there's going to be some ups and downs, and I don't think a lot of wins are going to come this season. But the reality is you're going to be able to see if he's a real dude by Thanksgiving or Christmas. I don't necessarily think it's a sure thing that he starts week one. Jim Irsay kind of hinted that would be his preference, but he did say it'd be Shane Steichen's call, and I think they'll lean on Shane Steichen in this regard. But it's going to be interesting to see how he handles adversity because the losses are going to pile up this year. How does he respond to that? That's what his teammates are going to want to see.
You mentioned Peyton and Andrew Luck, both whom were groomed to be quarterback. Peyton, since he was 4 years in the womb, obviously, and Andrew Luck as well. But Andrew Richardson, completely different style of quarterback. He brings different tangibles to the table as well. He can do some things that both of those guys couldn't do with his legs.
Yeah, the funny thing is, a lot of people forget this. Andrew Luck tested the same as Cam Newton at the combine. Now, Cam Newton was 2011, Luck was 2012, but we're talking about elite athletes, right? Guys that are built to play tight end in a sense. Richardson's on a different level. It's not a stretch to say he might be the most talented quarterback physically we've ever seen come into the league, right? If you watch the highlight tape, it's not hard to see all the things he can do that just make the game easier. And don't, let's not get around the fact that Shane Steichen is excited to have Jonathan Taylor and Anthony Richardson in the same backfield. But can he win from the pocket? That's the biggest question. That was a very pointed question that Jim Irsay asked Shane Steichen in a very important pre-draft meeting. He said, can he become an outstanding passer? And Steichen walked him through why you change the mechanics, you scheme around it, why they believe he can. So he doesn't need to be Peyton Manning or Andrew Luck from the pocket, but he's got to be pretty good, and that's the biggest step. So that's really what the next 3 months are about. Shane's ready to go with this kid. He'll be in town Thursday. They got rookie minicamp Friday, Saturday, Sunday. The first thing is going to be getting Shane with Anthony Richardson, get him in the playbook, and start on the fundamentals with him, shoring those things up as we move into minicamp in June and then training camp in late July.
You cover the NFL on a regular basis. I remember when Lamar Jackson was at Louisville and then following him in the NFL, and I'm not trying to compare these two guys, but I'm comparing what Lamar Jackson is able to do now and what he was able to become. He's gone from being a runner with some throwing to a pretty damn good thrower and a really good runner. The thing about his running that was always there, he never took a hit. I never saw him get hit. I'm like, he's like a snake. He just goes through and is able to not take a hit, which is wild. But he had Bobby Petrino, and he learned to throw the ball, and he can throw the ball. And he's got, obviously, the NFL provides you with much better tutelage. And I think that Anthony Richardson could be one of those guys if he can learn to control those legs. Having them is one thing, controlling them, knowing when to use them is another.
Yeah, that's a good point about Lamar. He's a really good thrower, and that's obviously sometimes the second part of the conversation with him because he's such a dynamic runner. But the reality is, what happened the last time the Colts had a franchise quarterback who liked to run around a lot, right? Like, that is still fresh in their minds. And Andrew was not good at that. To his own credit, or to his, to credit, he admitted he took too many shots early on. He was too aggressive. He wanted the first down when he would have settled for, it's better sometimes to slide and come up short. The beating that he took and the beating that shoulder took really changed the course of this franchise. So believe me, that's not left Jim Irsay's mind. It's not left Chris Ballard's mind. There's going to be a plan in place. And even though he's big, strong, and fast and tall and all those things, Anthony Richardson needs to learn to be a little slippery when he gets outside the pocket because they do not want him taking those head-on shots with linebackers.
What are your thoughts? You covered the team what from this pick and everything else they've been able to add and what they already had. This is probably as good a shape as they could have come out of this draft, I think. I'm not saying it was perfect, but going in, there's not a lot more that I think that they could have done.
12 picks, man. Like, that's the most they've ever had in the modern draft era since 1970. That's a lot. So they added a lot of competition to the roster. One of the focuses they had was adding a lot of youth in the secondary. They drafted 3 corners. They drafted a safety. Like, look, it's going to be up and down with those guys. You know how punishing that position is early in their careers because the quarterbacks are better, the receivers are way better, the coaching's better. That's a tough position to play. That's a thankless position to be back there. Luckily, the Colts play a little bit of zone, which gets these guys a little bit of help, a little bit. But again, it's gonna be tough for Julius Brents and Daniel Scott and those guys. But we'll see. And the only concern I have is right guard, and I know that's not super sexy, but if you watch this team play last year, it kind of is because if you can't protect the quarterback, what's the point? And I don't love Will Fries at that spot. We talked to Tony Sperano, the new O-line coach, last week, and he's like, I love Will Fries, and it seems like it's his spot right now. I would have liked some competition there. I would have liked them to spend some money in free agency on a veteran who can just plug and play at that spot. I don't want to risk that inner pocket, right, left guard, center, right guard. I don't want to risk that being shaky because you've already got a left tackle who's a question mark and Bernard Ryman. So if I had to pick one nitpick, it'd be right guard because banking on just running it back from what they had last year is the exact mistake they made last season, and that's worrisome. I know Richardson can make magic in the pocket and he can avoid a lot of pressure, but just because he's a great runner doesn't mean your line's better. Yeah,
I'm sure it's a very sexy position to Anthony Richardson because that's very important to him and what he's doing. And it's very important to getting this era off on the right start. He's got to be able to do that. You look back at the beginning of the Peyton Manning era, he threw the most interceptions for a rookie, but that's probably a different story. It was half Peyton being Peyton probably, but that's being a quote unquote freshman in the NFL. That's a gigantic learning curve. What's next for you and for the Colts?
Yeah, they got the rookie mini camp on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. All eyes will be on the quarterback, but to be honest, I'm excited to see the young corner, Julius Brents, Indy guy, and my favorite draft pick might be the third one, Josh Downs, the little receiver out of Carolina. They just haven't had a small receiver around here in a while. And I know T.Y. Hilton was, but this guy's going to be different. He's a different skill set. Ballard's never drafted a receiver under 6 feet. This guy's different. He's a Shane Steichen pick. I think he's going to be a lot of fun in this offense from that slot position. So we'll see what the rookies look like when we come in Friday afternoon at the facility.
Chris Ballard, he certainly seems to have gotten the monkey off his back. Of course, we have to let everything play out, but from what we just talked about of the 12 picks and the talent they brought in, I don't think anyone could have asked a lot more of him.
Yeah, and he'll be the first to say, let's wait and see. Let's wait and see. But what he was able to do with the Gilmore pick that he got from Dallas and then kind of turn that into 4 5s, right? I mean, 12 picks is a lot. They attacked a lot. And like they say, the more darts you can throw at the dartboard, the better chance you have at succeeding. We'll see. But, you like the backup swing tackle they got out of BYU. If these guys hit, they attacked a lot of good needs this weekend.
Zach Kiefer from The Athletic. Make sure you're giving him a follow. Be a subscriber. I am. Zach, I can't tell you much. Appreciate you. It's the first time we've had him on, and I look forward to being able to do this some points in the future, man.
Awesome. Thanks, Jim. Have a good one.
You bet. Zach Kiefer from The Athletic joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Monday, May 1st. We've got a lot more coming up. Dustin Dopirak will join us from the Indy Star. Kevin Sweeney from College Basketball Central, as we have a lot of college basketball info to get to later. Back with it. Brought to you by our great friends from Remax Realty in Indianapolis. If you're looking for a home in the Indy area, you need Cheryl Sizemore, and her 2 decades of experience could be the difference between you getting the home you want and not. Reach out to her, Indy Home Pros. Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com. Or if you're in the Louisville, Southern Indiana, Scott, Floyd, Clark, Harrison County areas, Barbara Pop Real Estate Services have served those communities for over 3 decades. Reach out to Barbara at BarbaraPop.com or our friend Matt Lincoln, Matt at BarbaraPop.com. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're in the...
All right.
All right. All right, all right, all right. Oh, God, don't put that in my head. 2 old bastards. I can see them now. That's not them, is it?
No, I don't know.
I was thinking the 2 old men from Sesame Street.
Oh, I don't think that's what I was doing, no.
Oh, I think you were. You just didn't know it. Here comes the sun. Doo-doo-doo-doo.
Dopirak?
Holy moly. What are you in the steam room?
Yes. No, we are in a Radisson in Charlotte, North Carolina, because our flight home from a wedding in Texas got canceled. So,
well,
we
would have had my
connection out of Charlotte to Indy, and so now we got to fly to Louisville today and drive back.
Well, I could have had my brother meet you in Charlotte, or I've got many friends there in Louisville as well.
Well, that's cool.
How are you getting?
Won't be here very long.
How are you getting from Louisville to? Did you
rental
fly
car.
out of Louisville? Oh, so
No,
you've got a
we
rental car.
in Louisville. Yeah, so we didn't want to spend. We got Maxine boarded up, so we're not trying to add another day of boarding for Maxine. So
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
We spent a bunch of days at the pet hotel, so we're between 2 weddings, so we're trying not to keep her in there.
Oh, she's back here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, she's gonna be pissed when you get home, or maybe not. Maybe she's like going, stay.
Maybe not.
Stay.
What does she know? I've decided she's having a good weekend, man. They treat her well.
She's around a bunch of new peeps, man. It's like going to camp.
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh, we've got to talk about this. That doggy day camp, right?
Yeah, it's overnight camp for her.
Well, I'll call it doggy day night camp.
All right, here we go, guys.
Bloomington. Whether you're out on a date with your spouse, friends, or coworkers, Feast Market and Cellar offers an extensive wine selection with a sommelier on staff to help you with your selections. Feast also provides a wide variety of cheeses, gourmet sandwiches, entrees, a coffee bar, bread, pastries, all made fresh and mouthwatering. Stop by Feast Market and Cellar today.
This segment is brought to you by Feast Market and Cellar. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. Monday, May the 1st. Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. Dustin Dopirak from the Indy Star answers the call. Coming to us from, it looks like an old Egyptian.
He does.
Sauna,
out in a Radisson hotel in North Carolina.
It looks like he's in somewhere in the far, upper regions of Egypt. He's got some women with those long palms, whatever they used to wave them with.
Long palm trees.
Yes, long limb palm trees, whatever the heck that thing was.
My wife can probably hear you right now. If I had palm trees with palm trees, that'd be.
Yes, well, I wouldn't suggest that it was her. She'd probably not enjoy that. But Dustin finishing up some traveling, and and Maxine is in doggy day night camp, and so she's probably enjoying a little vacation.
Am I cutting out? Is this me or you?
That's on that end, I believe. But yeah, Maxine on a little doggy day camp, getting her vacation on as well. So she probably doesn't mind too awfully bad. Oh, I'm sure she's fine, and I'm sure. I hope she misses you a little bit.
Yeah, I would think so. Am I coming through okay? Is my connection all right?
It seems to when you ask.
Or not? Can you guys hear me? Okay, sorry. Okay, sorry. My apologies. Yeah. So we, I was just didn't hear all that coming through, but yeah, no, she's. Well, hopefully she's taken care of. We got good people over there. We've got her at a place where we already also did her her manners lessons or whatever you want to call it when you first get a puppy and you got to treat them, tell them how to do things. So she's got a lot of people over there she knows. She's got good grades every time we've left her over there, so we think she'll be okay. We're sure she's gonna be all right.
Yeah, Robert says he had a hard time getting his lab to come home. She enjoyed it.
Oh, I'm sorry, Robert.
But absolutely. Let's see. So are you winding down from the playoffs are out of question.
Right. Yeah, no, it went through all the sort of post-game, post-season stuff in terms of sort of where they stand, what they're going for next year. So everybody's been out of town. The Pacers as a whole, I got the impression that everybody was sort of leaving town for a couple weeks. Just, players, staff, personnel, coaches, everybody just took off. So what I would imagine is we're coming up on now, obviously in 2 weeks, there'll be the NBA draft combine. I think you're going to see a lot of the, staff is going to be back in town. More of the, the front office and everybody's going to start working on draft. Is going to start coming up now. Obviously, saw last week the whole gigantic list of early entries, and you're going to see a lot of those head back. You would think. After the combine invites come out, which I would have to think is sometime in the next 2 weeks. I'll be there in Chicago covering that, the lottery, and a couple days of the combine. So that's when it starts to get interesting, and then they start inviting people, and you start seeing what they're going to do with those picks. I mean, I think it'll be they definitely intend to trade at least probably more than one of them because they're going to end up with 5 picks. They don't plan on bringing in 5 rookies, so they're going to see what they can package there and start to get a sense of what they can move and what they can't and who they want and who they don't. I mean, I think they do want at least one. I think they want that lottery pick. I mean, I think if unless they get a really, really, really important player that, would require a lottery pick to acquire him, then, otherwise they're going to make that first one, but I think they're going to try to add a more veteran player. Try to package the other picks together and see if they can get something, or maybe try to push it forward and get maybe higher picks in the future. But they're not going to try to get all those rookies, but all the same, it's still going to be a very important draft for the Pacers, and they're going to start really planning for that. They've been planning it. Certainly, obviously, they've been doing a lot of scouting, but they're going to start really nailing down what they're looking for. Obviously, they have a sense of where their picks are going to be now in particular. They don't know all of them yet. There's still a couple that are a little bit up for grabs. Obviously, the lottery pick itself, and also the first pick they have in the second round will be dependent on the lottery, because it's technically the Rockets pick, and I think if the Spurs get the higher pick in the first round and the Rockets get the higher pick in the second round, and in that case, the Pacers get number 32. If not, they get number 50. But a lot of May is going to be spent for them really just drilling into the draft and getting a better sense for what they want in June.
Dustin, is there any you met? Oh yeah, that was great. Matter of fact, you mentioned not doing things unless it involved anyone too important. Is there anyone that's too important to get? Well, I guess there's no way to. There's no way to guarantee you. Mm-hmm. I guess that number one pick. So.
They're not getting that number one pick. I mean, here's the thing: they're not getting that number one pick unless the lottery gives it to them. Whoever wins the lottery is not trading that pick. I promise. Nobody's trading Victor Wembanyama.
How big is he then, right, as far as not people not giving up on that pick in the last few years in the hierarchy? Where would you put him on? He's the number one pick of how many? If we were seeding the number one picks.
Yeah, if we're thinking, let me look here. I want to make sure I'm right. Because I think he's probably
because we've been hearing about Wembanyama for a hot minute, and there's not a lot of drafts where there's just one guy that you're hearing about. It's usually there's at least there's 2 or 3.
A couple where there's a maybe. I mean, I'm thinking, I'm looking at this list. Whew. I mean, my first thought as I'm just looking back at the last 20 years going back to LeBron. LeBron was different. I think even then everybody kind of knew LeBron was that high.
Wow, but that's going back a long. That's a lot. We're talking a lot. That's a lot of years of basketball, man.
Yes, I mean, there's obviously some really good players that have gone number one overall in that time. So you're looking at, Banchero was terrific. I mean, but I think you weren't sure if it was going to be him or Holmgren and Jabari Smith. Cade Cunningham, I think a lot of people thought was going to be number one, but you didn't know that for sure. And it's not that you didn't know that for sure, but nobody was like, well, you have to get Cade Cunningham because he's going to change your franchise tomorrow. Anthony Edwards, I mean, I remember there were a couple other guys who could have gone number one. Zion Williamson, I think it was pretty much a coin flip between him and John Morant. You knew Zion was a big deal. So
Anthony Davis.
Number 2, you weren't trading that pick. But the previous 2 before that, DeAndre Ayton, Markelle Fultz, nice players, but not at that level. Ben Simmons, Karl Anthony Towns, Andrew Wiggins, Anthony Bennett. Really, the one that, again, the last one I go back to that was probably that close to that big of a deal was Anthony Davis in 2012. I'm trying to remember who else went around him, but he was certainly an important guy you had to get. The guys before that, Kyrie Irving and John Wall, I know there were other options around him. Blake Griffin was a guy that I think a lot of people wanted. Derrick Rose was up there, and then it was the Odin Durant draft. Before that, it was Andrea Bargnani. That one was a kind of a mess. Andrew Bogut was kind of a mess of a draft. Dwight Howard, I think was a lot of people wanted. So before that, you got to go back to LeBron. But no, I don't think so. Just going through that list, I don't remember anybody being as surefire of a number one as Wembanyama is. Going into this thing. Again, a couple guys that were surefire, they're either 1 or 2 that you could definitely say were just a big deal. But I think I keep coming back to what LeBron James said about him when he was asked after, he and the games between him and Scoot Henderson were on TV, and he said, he's an alien. Like, he's not a unicorn. He's an alien. He's doing stuff that we've never seen. And at all. Because, I mean, and it's true. I mean, I don't know what his stats are like in France. And obviously the issue is going to be, what's his level of consistency? How well can he do all that once you get him in the league? But you see moves he makes that you don't see. I mean, like this guy's 7'3", just doing crossovers, putting the ball between his legs and doing step back fadeaways. I mean, it's freaky. Just watching him is absolutely freaky, and obviously he can protect the rim. He's got a lot of good athleticism. There's just a skill set you don't just don't see on 7'3" guys. It's just not normal. And so you just have to presume that translates into a great player. Now, does it translate into the best player in the league? I don't know, but I mean, I think there's certainly all NBA potential there. For sure. There is a question, I think, of how his body holds up, just from the sense of when you've got tall enough guys, there's wear and tear. That puts a lot of stress in their joints, and certainly you've seen great tall skinny players become injury prone, and you would include Anthony Davis on that list. You would include Kevin Durant on that list. They've been more durable than most. You've seen them build a better career than a lot of other guys, with that kind of build. But ultimately, it just from a starting point, there's just a skill set that's just far more refined than you see in that kind of player, and that I think does have a good chance of translating, because it's a work thing. It's not a raw potential thing. You can't look at a guy who hits a step back or that one-handed, kind of fadeaway three he puts up there. Like you don't, that comes from practice. Like that's not something that just, he was born with. This guy does stuff because he has worked his butt off in the gym. And you can tell that, and that I think obviously speaks well for his long-term potential.
I have a name I like to throw at him. Mason Cox. He's a 32-year-old Texan.
Mm-hmm.
He former walk-on at Oklahoma State.
Mm-hmm.
And he is a superstar in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
But playing Australian rules football.
Okay.
All at right. 6'11". At 6 foot. I saw this on 60 Minutes last night. This guy is 6'11", playing Australian rules football. Who's the guy with the Celtics that went to Oklahoma State?
Marcus Smart.
They went to high school together.
Okay. All right. I'm finding his Wikipedia page and seeing this now. Anyway, go on.
That's just, I was just suggesting him. When you want to talk about some toughness, this dude's got it.
Yeah.
Watch some of his highlights. These guys are getting killed. Oh my God, he's got the toughness.
Yeah, it really does.
But that was just. Has anyone done a better job putting themselves in the position the Pacers are in than the Pacers? I mean, they made seemingly the right picks last year. Benedict Mathurin he came along. He gave you everything you wanted and probably a little more than you expected. The Pacers gave you everything that you wanted and probably a little more than people expected. And now they're in a position.
Right.
It's usually then you're further. You've used up a lot of your resources. Man, they're halfway. They're 3/4 of the way there, but have only used half of the resources.
Yeah, no, I mean they have absolutely put themselves in a nice position. I mean, and frankly, they put themselves in a bad position. They really missed on some drafts. I mean, they really missed on a couple. Obviously, Goga Batadze was a first-round pick. He doesn't go anywhere. I'm trying to think of TJ Leaf going back to that. The Pacers have had some struggles in recent years putting good drafts together, but Mathurin they really nailed. Absolutely nailed. I mean, I think he's going to be terrific. There are strides he needs to make. I mean, I think you saw down the stretch when Rick Carlisle really tried to put him in tough positions defensively to force him to grow up. You see how far he's got to go to grow up, but just his ability to get to the rim time and time again, the force with which he drives is fantastic. I mean, he's just really good at getting there and finishing. He's added a bunch of finishing moves to his repertoire. Kind of a Euro step has really come a long way. Everything he does around the rim it is good and getting better. Floaters, just the amount of stuff he can make happen in the paint is great, and he's getting better from outside. He's definitely a work in progress as a shooter, but I think he's going to be a really good one as an offensive player. He's pretty terrific. Defensively, he's got a long way to go. He has the body. I mean, you look at them and see that kind of Jordan, Kobe type of build at 6'6", about 190, 200, somewhere in that range. He's got a lot of length, got a lot of muscle. Dude's ripped. And so it's like, okay, where is the defensive prowess here? And there's some level of intensity on the ball. He gets lost off the ball. He really gets lost, gets caught up in screens, isn't always sure when he's supposed to cheat in and when he's supposed to, just lock on his guy on the perimeter. So he's got to get a lot better there. But ultimately, just really sold out well, was second leading scorer in the league. I mean, I don't know when the all-rookie team comes out exactly, but he's either going to be first or second team on that. Andrew Nembhard, they really nailed that pick at 32. I think there was obviously some more up and down for him, but I think you really saw him blossom the second stretch that he got with Halliburton out after the sprained ankle. He really did, I think, a much better work than the first one. And so, really good defensive player, came a long way as an offensive player, I thought. So, nailed those picks. The trade with the Kings worked out really well for both sides. Certainly making the Kings a playoff team. Sabonis really just took that franchise up a notch. But Halliburton is the centerpiece, for the Pacers. I mean, for as much as you see how much success the Kings had, and you could argue that the Kings won that trade, if you will. But all the same, you would still do the deal if you're the Pacers, because this sets you up with a guy who, you needed to get a point guard. You couldn't have both of those bigs. You needed to get rid of one of them, and you needed to get a lead guard, and they did. And Halliburton really is the centerpiece for that. So they've got a ton of youth already, and they've got a chance to add more talent. And they've got a lot of assets that they can do a lot with. They've got a lot of cap room. They got $25 million worth of cap room. Now, the thing that's worth noting there is Halliburton's going to be due for an extension, and they're going to be able to get away with not paying him much this year, but they're going to have to pay him a whole lot next year, and they're willing to do that. Kevin Pritchard has come out and said, we're going to do an extension. That's not really a question. It's just kind of a question of exactly when, to make it work with the cap. But he's going to get paid and get paid soon. But also doing the extension with Miles Turner, I think they really believe in him as a center. So they've got a lot of ducks, and they get more now. There are bigger steps to make. It's one thing getting from being a non-playoff team to being a playoff team, which I think they'll be a playoff team next year. But then you have to take that next step into that higher echelon of being real contenders, and that's not going to be easy out east. Obviously Milwaukee is still got at least some time left on that window. They're going to have to make some decisions after this loss to the Heat, but they're still going to be there. Boston, Philadelphia they're going to be powerhouses for a while. The Knicks made a really big, just getting into the semis is a really big deal for them. Miami's still there. It's going to be tough for them to move up into the higher echelons of the Eastern Conference, but they have a chance to make a significant leap with personnel this coming year.
What's up next for you, my friend, besides getting Maxine out of doggy prison?
Finding a way to get back to Indianapolis. I'm going to be doing. Yeah, exactly. I'm going to be doing some Indiana Fever coverage this week. Was supposed to be there at camp today, and I'm not going to make it, obviously. But they get rolling with their season. That's another team that's certainly in even bigger rebuilding mode, but getting to see what Grace Berger looks like in a WNBA uniform of practice. Leah Boston, and all the draft picks they added. I mean, I think I did a preview this week on them, and I think out of the 17 people they have in camp, 13 have one or fewer years of WNBA experience. So it's a true complete rebuild over there, but they got a lot of pieces. So we'll see how it all comes together. They've had one rebuild that didn't work. The build around Tierra McCown didn't really go anywhere. But they've got a new start. Again with taking Boston overall, taking Berger on top of Melissa Smith from last year and a bunch of other those pretty talented players they got in last year's draft. New coach, so a whole new operation over there. So going to check that out this week and write about it.
Make sure you give him a follow if you're not already, and follow all of that. Dustin Dopirak. Can't thank you enough, my friend. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, guys. Y'all have a good one.
Safe travels. Dustin Dopirak from the Indy Star joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Up next, Kevin Sweeney from College Basketball Central joins us as we get you updated on what's happening in the world of college basketball recruiting. And yeah, back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
How's it going, Kevin?
What's up, man? How are you?
Cannot complain, man. Just following this trail.
Couple more weeks.
I don't know. Can't wait till it's over. Busy week, busy weekend.
Oh yeah.
Did you go anywhere?
No, I didn't. I had some like family shit, so I was like, whatever. I mean, I'll probably go. I'll go to Peach Jam, and I might go to one of the big June high school events in either Texas or Arizona or Georgia, just because that's where coaches are. But I felt like in April, I'd rather take the weekend off from the portal and get back to work on Monday.
Yeah. I hear that. Let's see. Indiana Elite. Let's see. Bryan, Texas was the Indiana Elite and 3 SSB, but
yes.
Sorry, guys. I'll beat myself for a second.
How did they do? How did they do? I haven't even seen. The hell? There we go. We let's see, like whenever they're in Dallas, I think I'll have somebody in Dallas if you want it, if it worked out for you to be someplace else or whatever, and you all could help each other.
Cool.
All right, here we go, guys.
Located at the corner of Patterson and Rogers in Bloomington, offers a variety of freshly made fare, tying their roots in limestone with their love of Southern eateries. With quality, local, and organic food as their main focus, Southern Stone strives to always provide their guests with an exceptional dining experience. With weekly specials, quick, attentive service, Southern Stone Restaurant provides delicious, 5-star comfort food with a Southern charm at 2-star prices. Southern Stone Restaurant is part of Endeavor Hospitality's Wow Club.
This segment is brought to you by Courtroom Sports Grill in Bedford. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. Monday, May the 1st here at Indiana Sports Beat Radio from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Welcome in Kevin Sweeney from College Basketball Central. Kevin, how was your weekend, man?
It was good. No complaints. Nice to get a relatively quiet weekend in the books after the sprint of March and early April. But back to the portal Monday.
Always something going on. First of all, for Indiana, Anthony Walker. They pull in yet another piece. This one from Miami, but another front court piece, and what I would imagine is their absolute last front court piece, with 2 spots left to fill, either another guard or a wing and a guard, a wing and a prayer. Just kidding. But I don't know if that makes it easier to fill those spots with exactly what they need, but I was talking earlier, what they need is out there, or it may not be out there just yet. So Indiana's in no way in any kind of a panic situation. I think they're going to end up fine, actually, because by waiting now, they can probably sift through a little bit because there's going to be some fallout from the draft and guys that aren't even in the portal yet. But Anthony Walker coming over to Indiana, the one thing that I mentioned also earlier is the difference that Indiana has now is all these front court players. The one thing that they all have in common is they all have experience playing, and that is huge for Indiana because now you bring in somebody, everybody's coming in, everybody can contribute. And if they fill these other two pieces with guys like that, Indiana then becomes a team that to me is not very predictable because you're not going to know where the production is going to come from.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the Walker addition just gives you another proven body, right? A guy who played in the Final Four. He's, long and can make a shot and can sit in the dunker spot. I mean, it's such a different role in the Big Ten generally, but particularly at Indiana than what it was at Miami, where they played so much small ball. He was essentially always a 5. I don't really foresee, based on the roster right now, him playing a lot of 5, but a guy who could potentially stretch the defense, who's older, who's played in big games, like that there are worse ways to use a scholarship than that. I think oftentimes you get into a spot where, and North Carolina is a good example of this right now, where like when you sign the 8th and the 9th man first, and you're still waiting on number 3 and number 4, people get very antsy. But North Carolina did that with Paxton Wojcik and then with Jalen Withers, and then went and got Harrison Ingram and Cormac Ryan and settled everyone's nerves. I think it's a similar thing with Indiana, where obviously they got Khalil to start the offseason, but you're sitting here like, where's the wing? Where's the guard? Where's the guy who can make shots and score for us? And then you sign Walker. It's like, well, that didn't really fill a need. Like, what are we doing? And sometimes it's just kind of an order of operations thing.
Then you've got, where was I with that? Yeah, and so they're set and solid there. And last year, Indiana's offense was pretty much a 2-man game with Jalen Hood-Schifino and Trace Jackson-Davis because that was how the offense was set up. I don't know why they didn't incorporate more of the shooting aspect into the game, what that reason was. But do you think that's keeping guys from coming to the Indiana for those 2 spots?
I mean, I don't necessarily think so, and from the standpoint that both Jalen Hood-Schifino and Trace are gone, right? Like, if those guys are still around and you were saying, oh, we're going to give you a bigger role, it's like, well, the film doesn't lie. But at the end of the day, like, if I was a kid who wanted to go to Indiana, like, look, like, there's a lot of shots to go get. Like, there's a lot of open shot. And look, I think this team will probably play a lot of pick and roll with Xavier Johnson and with Khalil Ware, and I think there's some kind of natural fit there with Ware's athleticism, his ability to rim run, and Johnson's ability to pass the ball and put pressure on the rim, driving it. But I don't think that there's a lack of shots available, particularly on the wing, right? If you're a 2-3, there's really a good chance to not only come in and play, but come in and get shots up.
We look at Indiana's front court now. With adding Walker to that list, Malik Renew, Sparks, Ware, and now Walker. Look at their front court last year. How different is it? Even though Trace Jackson-Davis was obviously better than any of these players, but is he better than the aggregate of having all 4 of these guys with Race Thompson and that? Because Indiana, that was the extent of Indiana's front court for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, there's something to be said for having more depth. I think at the end of the day, Trace was one of the 5 to 10 best players in the sport, and I don't think there's any aggregate that can replace that necessarily. But I do think that there's certainly truth to, like, hey, if we get the Khalil Ware we're hoping we get, which is an NBA level talent, a guy who can come in and be really productive, and then you add in, okay, he doesn't have to be on the floor for 30-35 minutes a game. We have, a little bit more versatility at that 4 spot. Hopefully Renew makes the jump, right? Things like that. You could sit there and say, okay, we have a chance to be as good, if not better, in the front court than we were last year. And that's a rare thing to have when you're losing a guy as good as Trace.
I mentioned the 2 open spots, but also you have 2 guys on the bench already, or on the roster, Caleb Banks and CJ Gunn. a wing, shooting guard, maybe need. They both play those positions. Caleb, a great wing, CJ Gunn, a great shooting guard, need to just get better, take a step up. And I fully expect actually both of them to do that. I'm not saying that I think that these guys are going to be starters, but I think that they are going to take a step up. Caleb Banks showed his willingness and want to do that a lot last year. And CJ Gunn, I know, is a good shooter. I've seen him shoot too much. And just those guys are going to get better.
Yeah, without a doubt. And that will help without a doubt on the margins. I still think there's a clear need to get someone in there who's a little bit more proven, who can play 20 to 25 minutes in the Big Ten. But I don't think it's a disaster if Indiana doesn't get a star for one of these last two spots. They just get role players who know how to play, who'll contribute, who've played in big games, right? And then hope that you also get some growth internally, right? Like the best case scenario for Indiana is you get a good transfer at those positions of need. And then guys like Gunn and Banks are so good that they push them and take away those minutes, right? That's what you want. That's not only going to make your team better, but it's going to make your practices more competitive because you're going to have guys pushing each other for spots. You're going to have a better offseason. Like there's so much value in having competitive depth, and I think that's what Indiana hopes they'll have.
Oh, absolutely, and that goes back to what I talked about earlier in this team not being just a two-headed snake, but being a five-headed snake, but never knowing where that head was coming from or who it was. And that's what I think Indiana needs desperately to get to, being a much more diverse team. So you're not predictable. So you're harder to defend. And we'll see what they're able to do with that. The EYBL going on. Well, first of all, before I get to that, Mbako, one of the big names on the list of wants for Indiana, has set a visit to Indiana for the 5th and 6th of May. That's coming up. That's this weekend, graduation weekend. But how important is that?
I mean, it's a big deal. He was, the 2023 class is not overly strong, but he's one of the higher upside guys in the class and was a top 10 recruit for a reason. I think the perception nationally is that probably St. John's, who got the first visit, and Louisville, who's getting the last visit, are probably the leaders at this point. But I don't necessarily think that's set in stone by any stretch. Kansas.
How can Louisville be in the leader for anything? It shocks me that they could get anyone at this state of his caliber at this stage. I mean, they are not going to make that kind of a jump next year.
Yeah, I think it's an investment. It's relationships. Nolan Smith was critical in recruiting Mbako to Duke, and then he left for the Louisville staff. And I think that's something that will help Louisville there. And Louisville's I think they're probably going to struggle again. But if they get Mbako, they'll have 3 5-stars in this class. Like plus Sky Clark, who was a former 5-star coming in, and I was pretty down on how Sky played at Illinois. Like all of a sudden you will look at this roster and it will not look that different from what people would have envisioned Louisville looking like in terms of length, athleticism, potential NBA talent. The question is is it enough to actually move the needle and win? And I think there's obviously some coaching concerns now with Kenny Payne, whatever you have as year bad as they did, but we'll see with Mbako. Like, I would temper expectations in terms of like his impact next year. Like I think he could be a starter. I don't think he's gonna like immediately come in and be an all conference player anywhere, because I think he's just still learning how to use his body to make an impact on the game. And I think he's still learning how to be consistent night in, night out. And I think you saw that in EYBL last year, where he'd show up one day and have 20 and 10, and the next day he'd be invisible, right? And I think that's something he's gonna have to continue to work through in college. But without a doubt, a talented kid. And when you can get involved with a kid of that caliber, you do it, and you roll the dice with him once you get there.
The EYBL was out in Phoenix, Arizona over the weekend, and I know you couldn't make it out there, but I know you were keeping tabs on all that was happening out there.
Yeah,
which was a lot.
Yeah, it's busy. I will say, to be the biggest takeaway from the first 2 weekends of EYBL is how much focus from not just media members, but also from coaches there has been on these 2025 and 2026 recruits. it was kind of known that 2023 was a down class. 2024 would start getting it back. There's some good names in there, like Trey Johnson, who's a kid from Oklahoma area. There's a kid from there's some good players. Nas Cunningham's pretty well regarded. Flory is on the EYB or the Adidas circuit, and he's really really highly regarded. Carter Bryan is going to Arizona, but the depth and the talent in 25 and 26 is like positively tantalizing. Whether it's Carlos Boozer's kid, whether it's Cooper Flagg, whether it's
Jalen Harrelson.
There's just a huge list of these like awesome 25s and 26. And it seems like every weekend, people that I know and trust call me and say, I found another in one of those classes who's going to be special. So there's just like a lot of excitement around the basketball world about where things are going in the next 3 to 5 years in terms of bringing those guys up from, amateur levels into college and the pros. Now, obviously not everyone's going to develop linearly. Some guys are going to stagnate, right? I mean, there's a reason about Amani Bates was the next coming of KD and now probably isn't getting drafted. But when you have this level of promising kids, it's certainly exciting long-term for the sport.
And something else of note, the state of Indiana also has a shot to have back-to-back number one players of the year. Flory Badunga would have to take another move, but I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to be surprised if he does it because he is a game changer. The kid from Kokomo, currently ranked number 2, I think, across the aggregate. And then in 25, you've got Jalen Harrelson, who is a freak of a point guard at 6'7" and looks like an NFL linebacker or running back.
Yeah, Flory is going to continue to rise, and it's just so physically impressive. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of Oscar Tshiebwe comparisons. I think there's probably more upside as a pro than Oscar because I think he's going to move his feet better and be a little bit more versatile defensively. But in terms of his just ability to kind of game wreck on the boards, he's going to be awesome to watch. And then it's too early probably in 25. I mean, Harrelson is a great prospect without a doubt, but there's going to be a lot of dudes, angling for that number one spot in 2025 between him and Flagg and Boozer and Isaiah Harwell, who I've seen a lot of out west, who's really, really good. Like it is going to be awesome to watch that class develop. And I think a great opportunity for college basketball to get some guys. I mean, there's been so much talk. Is college basketball getting elite talent anymore? I think part of that's just been there hasn't been a lot of elite talent to begin with. Now, if college basketball can peel off a lot of these guys in 2025, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Kevin, you're outside of not outside of the Big Ten footprint, but you spend more time outside of the Big Ten as far as coverage wise goes. Sure. How important do you see it being for Indiana to get and land a Flory Badunga and Jalen Harrelson because they are going to be so highly rated in the state and get back to landing those kinds of guys from within the state first because that has to happen. And I know people are going to say, well, you landed Trey Jackson-Davis. Yeah, but that was more, I think, IU landing him at the time. But now the game has changed massively between when Trayce Jackson-Davis was a freshman and now. And it's unbelievable to say because that's only been 5 years or whatever. But how important is that they land those guys?
Yeah, obviously it's key. It's key for national perception. It's key if you want to win in the Big Ten. It's key if you want to win nationally. Like those are the types of guys that can win you games in March. And so, well, I think it's key to at least get one, right? Like saying you're going to get two is probably it'd be great, but I don't think it's something you can necessarily expect just because of how competitive the race for both kids is going to be. But if you can land at least one of the two, I think it speaks well to your ability to recruit the state and also to get high level NBA type talent at Indiana.
Let's see. One of the Dingle kid. I didn't bring him up, did I? We haven't talked about him yet. Indiana also in on him as well. What would he bring to the Hoosiers?
Scoring. I mean, he's a kind of undersized combo guard. Like wants to kind of play with the ball in his hand some, but like he can just flat out go. He can make shots at a really high clip. He can get to the rim. He's really, really physically mature. Like he's tough enough to deal with banging bodies in the Big Ten. Like he is an awesome scoring guard. I'm not sure what else he's going to bring, but he's a good enough shooter that even if doesn't have the ball in his hands, he'll impact the game, and he can obviously he can really score with the ball in his hands when you give him those opportunities.
Is there a guy that Indiana needs more than say the former Ivy League Player of the Year?
I think given who they've been connected to, he's the guy that I think really changes things in terms of spacing the floor and just another guy who can create and get into the paint. I think that's something that they really need, is just a guard who can break you off the bounce, get into the paint, and make stuff happen. He can certainly do that.
And it's funny how these guys, they start in the places where they start, but yet they're coveted by the big time programs. And that's why I love the portal, because of that. And now what I don't like the lack of a commitment. I don't like the single year thing, which, being able to transfer once is cool. You definitely should have to sit if you transfer a second time, but I maybe even more than that. But what else? What's the next big thing to happen in college basketball going on with all this right now, you think, with everything?
We're waiting for a Dickinson commitment in the very near term. I think that will start swinging a lot of things, because you're talking about Kentucky's roster, Kansas's roster, Maryland's roster, Villanova's roster, and Georgetown's roster. So seeing that's gonna create a domino effect of big guys. The combine here.
Is Maryland still a player for him?
They're trying. It sounds like it's more Kentucky or Kansas at this point.
Of course.
Which, it's natural, right? I think there was
who has the most money.
And there was the allure of home for him early, but I think the chance to play at a blue blood, it's big for his brand. He's obviously very conscious of that. So I think Kentucky's probably where he wants to go. It's just a matter of, do we get enough clarity early enough on Oscar Tshiebwe? And
right.
And as long as Oscar's leaving, I think Hunter goes. If Oscar wants to wait it out until May 30th, is Hunter going to wait? I don't know.
I don't think that there's much of a chance that he doesn't leave. A, B, he already told John Calipari to proceed as if I will not be returning.
Yeah, but I wonder if there's just kind of like if there's a holdup for Hunter of like, okay, like if I commit and all of a sudden Oscar is back, how is it going to impact like the way the game is played? Because look, Oscar's going to be at the combine. If he doesn't play well, I think there's a chance he's going to want to really open up options in college basketball again, just because it'll be the best financial decision for him. So
he could also hit the transfer portal.
He could indeed. Yes. I wouldn't necessarily expect it with Oscar, but never rule anything out in this day and age.
Do you expect any big names? Well, they still have 10 days right now. Do you expect any more big names prior to then that are not involved with the draft?
I don't think so. I think it'd be draft guys. I think there's a good chance we'll get more guys like Jordan Dingle, who are like elite mid-major players who the poaching gets like stronger and stronger once guys start missing on top targets. I think that's more likely what you'll see. Maybe we get one or two kind of high major names. I know the early rumor in like late March, early April was Adama Sanogo. He seems very committed to the pro process. Now, if that were to change in the next 10 days, maybe he enters just to have a little bit more leverage. But, I think we're looking more at some of the mid-major stars down the stretch here than we are some of the high major, bigger names across the sport.
Kevin, what do you have going on at College Basketball Central?
Lots to be done. I've got my first NBA big board this week, and then I'll be at the combine here in a few days after that to get the latest scoop on everybody. So we're excited about it, and never stops.
We'll look forward to talking to you about the Big Ten guys, Trace Jackson Davis, Jalen Hood-Jafino, those guys, and see how that plays out as well. It's the combine very important for these guys like Trace Jackson Davis. He's someone who it's probably holds no higher importance for than guys just like him.
Yep, he'll play 5-on-5 and get a chance to show in like an NBA game with NBA spacing. How does he look? How does he impact the game? It'll be really interesting to watch.
Kevin, thank you very much. Make sure you give him a follow. Kevin Sweeney from College Basketball Central. We've got more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and we're back with it right after this. Brought to you by the Ugly Grouper down on Anna Maria Island, just west of Sarasota. All you fine folks living down in Florida, I wish I was down there with you. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're in the Oh, I just thought of a funny saying that some people are going to steal from me.
Yeah. Excuse me.
How do you spell meteorological?
Meteorologica.
No, okay, go back. Meteorology.
Just look it up.
Meteorology. Spring.
All right. When we come back, you'll have about 11 minutes left. Oh, I just realized I didn't switch the song. Oh, well, I'll just continue the song we were playing earlier for the comeback song.
Rated by Endeavor Hospitality Group, launched from a previous staple in Bloomington, the former Function Brewing, Metalworks Brewing Company is the culmination of a passion for beer, food, and custom metal art. Check out their custom growlers. Metalworks Brewing Company has an updated menu, new brews, and will be offered in all Endeavor Hospitality restaurants. Come taste with Dr. Hops' Brewing. Metalworks Brewing Company. Bring your passion and your thirst.
This segment is brought to you by K-Bello. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Starting your week for you on this and the month, as it is Monday, May the 1st. Derby week. Got that going for us, which is nice. College basketball going on, and I just thought of a funny tweet, John Boy, that I actually put it in the wrong place, unfortunately.
What you got?
So, I said, April showers bring May flowers.
Mm-hmm.
How about April coaching brings May poaching?
That's pretty funny.
Telling the truth. Yeah. So there's that, which is nice. Looks like it's going to be a chilly day out there, like I said, but and then everyone regrouping. Heading toward the weekend, you've got graduation coming up. The Kentucky Derby is this weekend. It's Derby week. You've got the Kentucky Oaks on Friday. The month of May, man. The Indianapolis 500. What is that? It's like May 24th. What's the dates of this year's 500? May 28th. Sunday, May 28th. So, 4 weeks away from Indy. 1 week from the Derby. Actually less. We're in Derby week. So lots of things going on. You've got the remainder of the AAU to play out. And filling up these final 2 roster spots, which I think is going to happen sooner rather than later. Now, but you also have this spot becoming a little more coveted by others because now it's starting to shrink. You know, they've gone from having 7 open spots to, down the line. And these guys want a great place to go. Their options start to close. And it starts weighing in Indiana's favor a little bit more. And then that's when I think that Indiana is going to end up getting what they need. And I like what they have. They've got a lot of experience. A ton of experience. You're going to have an experienced point guard. You're going to have an experienced 2 guard, if you can't find something in front of him. You've got experience in the front court. With Anthony Walker, you've got great athleticism. With Sparks, kind of a question mark with where, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but what all can you get from him? Because he's kind of a double-edged sword as far as potentially being able to go outside at some point. And his athleticism and his length. And Caleb Banks, CJ Gunn, and Ja'Kai Newton, Gabe Cups. I really do not want to sell either of them, but Ja'Kai Newton short because have you seen this dude? He's a physical specimen. He looks like someone who wants to come in and try to play. He looks like a Caleb Banks up a few notches. So don't be surprised for that to happen because there's going to be great. That's another thing. Because it's not a 2-man game, that it's not guaranteed. We knew who the 2 guys were. Well, that's not the case anymore. That gives guys a little bit more confidence that they have a shot. No one had a shot at replacing Jalen Hood-Schifino or Trace Jackson Davis last year. Nobody. No one had a shot at getting their minutes. So what competition is there? Now you can have competition and not only have competition, but have 1A, 1B. Iron sharpens iron. And Indiana needs that. They need to, we talked about having that drop-off. There being such a drop-off for them in talent. You can't have that. You've got to have a stronger bench. I mean, I don't know that. I think the days of of 5 starters and some backup guys, I think that may be gone. I think that the game may be turning towards one where you need 7 and potentially 8 starters. Now, there are programs that are already on that page, and those are the ones that have been winning at the highest levels. But I think the game itself is going in that direction. And I think that makes teams much more formidable. I think that's what makes this past March Madness what it was. Different guys. Depth. Everybody concerned with who's starting at what. Who cares? And I don't mean this towards Kenneth, but, and who's going to play what minutes. That is ridiculous to even guess at. Why in the world would anybody know who's going to start where and play what minutes when the roster is not even complete yet? So therefore, that is an impossibility. Now, if you want to do it just for fun, have at it. Have at it. They haven't had a practice together. But have at it. The coaches haven't seen them work together. But have at it. Don't set. That's how it gets to setting. That's unrealistic expectations, because those are built on unrealistic data and a lack of data, I think. But we gotta do something for fun, right? Have something to argue about, playfully argue about. There's one guy that I know for sure that will start for Indiana basketball next year, and that's if he's completely healthy, and that's Xavier Johnson. Other than that, nope. I see no guaranteed roles. If Trey Galloway's a guaranteed starter, Indiana is not where they need to be. And I don't mean that as a slight to Trey, but it is what it is. Now, he has his role. He has definitely a role to play. I'm not saying that. But it is what it is. And looking forward to it. Just like I'm looking forward to tomorrow. John Boy.
Jim Boy.
Tomorrow's program.
I do believe we are getting a special visit from our dear friend K-Bro.
Oh, boy. Mike DeCourcy will also join us, as he normally does. K-Bro. Chronic Hoosier.
Of course.
Joins us tomorrow as well. And we've got K-Bro. Wow. Rough weekend for Indiana baseball, like we talked about. Hopefully they can get back at it. Indiana softball flying. Indiana students getting ready to graduate, all college students across the
That's right. How long until commencement for this year's class for Indiana?
Well, apparently it's this weekend.
Wow.
I did not know that until now. I was this many years old when I learned that was this weekend. But it is. I can't thank everybody enough for being on with us today on the program, as always, joining us on our Monday. Big thanks to Kevin Sweeney from College Basketball Central. Make sure you give him a follow as we keep you up to date with what is going on as the AAU season is up and at it. And right now, the visits are happening. Make sure you go to thehoosier.com to stay up to date on all of that. Big thanks to Zach Kiefer from The Athletic for joining us to talk about the Colts' new quarterback, Anthony Richardson. Dustin Dopirak from the Indy Star joined us as well. Greatly appreciate him. Big thanks to John, the producer. Most importantly, thanks to you guys. Without you, we've got no reason to be here. Looking forward to doing it again tomorrow. Until then, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.